right, this is the Ingram Angle from Washington tonight. Vote Democrat or you're a racist. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, have you noticed a growing trend in America? White supremacist organizations are popping up all over. North, South, East, West. Racist groups are gaining traction. Now, I'm talking about white supremacist book clubs, white supremacist bowling leagues, white supremacist garden clubs, even edgy new fashion trends for white supremacist spring breakers. There are white supremacist daycare centers where the snacks are obviously white rice, milk, yogurt, potatoes. You get the point. Now, if you believed any of that, turn off the TV, go to bed, and call your doctor in the morning. Of course, all this is ridiculous. True white supremacists, real racists, have been, thankfully, shunted to the extreme fringes of society. But to listen to the Democrats' messaging heading into 2024, you think our nation is about to be taken over by men in white hoods, even if there are no white hoods and these supposed racists are black and brown people.
Being Hispanic or being black does not, or being anything, does not make you immune from being racist, from being radicalized, from being a white supremacist.
Part of understanding the Latino blog is understanding that we too can be racist. Yeah. We too can fuel white supremacy.
We've seen a number of individuals who are clearly Latino, or at least of Latino heritage, who are white supremacists.
Well, of course racial bias exists. It always will, sadly, and it does to this day. But what the press surrogates for the Democrats are getting at here goes much deeper. This is an effort to inflate its prevalence or to excuse or deflect from the destruction wrought by Democrat policies, where in our cities, our schools, the culture, the economy, everywhere. So rather than offer real solutions, the left returns to its dog-eared playbook. Racism is systemic, it's structural, and it somehow explains why parents and students, even ones who are minorities themselves, are complaining about sexual propaganda in our schools. Now, the speakers you're about to hear at the Montgomery County, Maryland School Board meeting are what the left considers the new white supremacists.
I'm here to testify on behalf of my elementary-age cousins. They are encouraged to wear pride clothing and rainbow wigs that seems odd to me, as I don't remember a Jewish day where we were all encouraged to wear a kippah, or a Christian day where we were encouraged to wear a cross, or a Muslim day where all kids were encouraged.
Thank you for your testimony.
That's done.
He's a young Muslim former student. Now, the new bullies are the racial and sexual propagandists who defame anyone who disagrees with their twisted mission as white supremacist.
There are over 40 kids that I know who don't want to learn this and really want to be here talking today but can't because they are being bullied. They are the ones being bullied when they say we don't want to learn this. They are the ones being bullied when they say this is wrong. They are the ones being bullied when they say this is against my religion.
Another young Muslim American. Now, it's appalling that anyone has to go through this, which brings us to TL, typical leftist, Christian Mink. Now, this is the type of angry feminist who uses her county position as the ultimate power trip.
This issue has unfortunately put some, not all of course, but some Muslim families on the same side of an issue as white supremacists and outright bigots.
Now, if you can stomach it, look in the mirror, sweetie, because you're the bigot. An anti-religious fanatic who has no business near our schools. Now, who's more eloquent, Ms. Mink or the students should prefer to silence?
The issue of gender and sexuality are influenced by our faith, and we should not be caricatured as intolerant. Intolerance of the faith community threatens to erode support for religious freedom, therefore eroding the benefits it provides for everyone.
Now remember, to question the left's cultural Marxism is to be called white supremacist, pure and simple, or of course anti-gay. To question quotas, well, the same thing.
DEI does not mean DEI. It means black and gay people. Frankly, that's what it means. It's a fear of the other.
Fear of the other. Well, by now it's pretty obvious, right, that the Democrats knew once Biden was elected, America would be in for a lot of suffering and a lot of sacrifice. So what's a political party to do to stay in power at that point? Everything's going down the tubes. We all know it. It's to smear anyone and everyone who gets in their way, even if it means alienating some of their traditional supporters, Latinos, Muslims, even blacks. Now, we see this in their attacks on Ron DeSantis as well. Last year, he was reelected with major support among Latinos in his state. Remember, he won by 20 points overall, so how to beat him in the presidential contest? Pretty popular guy, right? Well, use the whiteout strategy. Focus on his laws against critical race theory and sexualized curricula. Use your press buddies, then, to frame it all as rank bigotry. On May 20th, this headline blasted across the internet. The NAACP issues a travel advisory for Florida. Now, the obscene idea that the state is hostile to black Americans? Yeah, this is part of the plan. Then 3 days later, stick with me, a gay rights travel advisory. Okay, just along with one warning immigrants not to head to the Sunshine State as well. Notice they left out the term illegal. Then came the crowning glory from that bunch of frauds over at the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's a leftist front group, by the way, that exists to smear conservatives. They put the benign group Moms for Liberty on their extremism list. Now, of course, if any group is extremist and should be on that list, it's the SPLC itself. So this is all coordinated. The Human Rights Campaign declared a state of emergency then, nationwide, for LGBTQ people. Don't leave your homes. Then today, obviously feeling left out of all the fear-mongering, the Associated Press, of all places, runs with this story, claiming that gay and black kids now feel less safe in schools. You see this, right? Don't you? This is all carefully orchestrated. It's a disinformation campaign meant to intimidate good people from speaking out, and those same good people from trying to influence things like school boards or their local governments. If kids feel under siege, it's precisely because groups like Gilson and HRC have turned our educational institutions into their own sick playgrounds for left-wing community organizing. And along the way, they've shown their own vicious intolerance against parents and students of faith who just want a good education, not indoctrination. But remember, go back to the original. This is all the Democrats have to offer in 2024. They're going to avoid addressing things like the invasion at our southern border, why the schools are so dangerous in the inner cities, why the kids aren't learning, why they've fallen behind. Instead, they're going to keep fanning the fake white supremacy flames.
Domestic violent extremism is our greatest threat right now. And regrettably, we have seen a rise in white supremacy.
The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
You know what the most dangerous threat to our homeland is? How about a guy who often can't think, can't walk, or can't start a sentence, being able to actually start a nuclear war? That's pretty scary. The party of FDR, the party of JFK, has become a mockery of itself. Soon it will be up to the voters, though, won't it, to see if they want to return to economic growth and prosperity, or do they want more of this whiteout acid that the left is slinging? And that's the angle. Now, I just mentioned this disturbing allegation that Muslim parents and their children, former students, who want to opt out of the sexualized curricula in our schools, are now akin to white supremacists. Joining me now is one of those parents, Kareem Monib. He's the president of Coalition of Virtue and organized a rally over this issue. Kareem, you and I were talking before the show, and us Catholics and other Christians, other people of faith have been waiting for the Muslims to step up on this issue and so many others, and you really are doing it in your community. What is your response to some of what we just shared in that angle?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of the brave, heroic parents that came out to the rally. There's a lot of fear of standing up, as you mentioned, and we want to break through that wall of fear and want people to get motivated and empowered to raise their voices for what everybody recognizes is reasonable. And so I want to thank those parents. If you're watching, parents of Family Rights for Religious Freedom, that's the local Montgomery County parent group. Thank you so much. You are brave, and everybody's watching, and your actions are having an effect.
And young students who spoke out. I was so impressed with them.
Amazing.
I mean, they documented and recounted how they've been bullied for actually saying, well, wait, I'm a person of faith. I'm not perfect, but I'm a person of faith, and this offends my sensibility. Yet they're the ones being targeted in the schools, yet they still spoke out. That's right. It requires a lot of bravery. One of the students, I recall from their testimony, said, isn't that why people came to this country, for religious freedom? And now that's been taken away from us. And he mentioned also that, what is the meaning of freedom? Freedom is the ability to do what you want, uninhibited. And that is clearly not the case. Now, Kareem, I want to play more from this Montgomery County Council member, Kristen Mink, from yesterday. Watch this.
The scientific and medical community has come to a clear consensus that LGBTQIA+ people exist. When we have children's books that represent, a child who has, who is transgender, that is the reality. And so MCPS has the responsibility to include and reflect that reality in our curriculum.
Now, Kareem, this is a school district that we fought tooth and nail to open up those schools. One of the many left-wing school districts that really hurt kids during this COVID pandemic. They were never held accountable. In fact, they reelected their county executive, Mr. Elrich. So what do you make of her comment? This is all consensus. It's already established. It's absolutely no. That's ridiculous. It's not a consensus. There's no scientific consensus that says a boy can become a girl simply by declaring something with his voice. And it's rejected by science, it's rejected by every faith tradition. And so, these kinds of arguments are silly. I want to say that what Coalition of Virtue, our vision is to bring together people of all faiths. All faiths, which I love.
And we want to restore the moral consensus that we had in this country since its inception. And we want to bring people of all faiths, and even those who may not belong to any particular faith.
Traditionalists, perhaps.
Traditional, reasonable people. I think that if we come together, we can become a political force in this country that can save us from what's happening. You, Kareem, and all of those kids who spoke out and former students, you all petrify the left. And so now they claim that you're the white supremacist. That's how low they have gone. But you don't seem too worried about it. It's absolutely a ridiculous assertion. I mean, most of the people out there were, like you said, brown or black. So it's offensive. It's only going to galvanize us more. Yeah, because more people know what's going on now. Kareem, thank you for coming in, and thank you for doing what you're doing, and I'll help you in any way I can. Thank you. Coalitionofvirtue.org if you want to join our effort. I'm a warrior for you. Thank you very so much. Great to see you. Okay, thanks. Now, as the FBI and these activist groups seek to silence, intimidate, as Kareem said, demonize these involved parents and students, they're turning a blind eye to the real threats to children's innocence and well-being, threats that are right under the nose. According to the researchers at Stanford University and the University of Massachusetts Amherst, Instagram is allowing users to search by hashtags related to child sex abuse, using graphic terms that we're not even going to state here on this show. What's worse, though, is that the platform didn't just allow this, it encouraged it. Now, think of it this way. Mark Zuckerberg, the man who spent $400 million tipping the last election to the Democrats, made some of that money on the backs of these pedophiles. Joining me now, Charlie Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor, Fox News contributor. Charlie, you and I have talked about the renaming of pedophilia into something that's more acceptable. Yeah. Minor attracted persons, the hashtag and that was on Twitter for the longest time, might still be for all I know. But this is mainstreaming something which is sick and frankly felonious.
Yeah, at some point you have to stop and wonder if it's not all intentional, because it sure does seem like it's all intentional. And I think that the degree to which you have a lot of people on the left and at these social media companies talking about white supremacy and trying to promote this idea that there are all these white supremacists that are all over the internet and all over taking over our country. Meanwhile, they're ignoring real criminal acts, like in this case with Instagram and this study where you have child pedophilia, you have child pornography being distributed on their platform. And as you point out, this, imagine how much maybe Mark Zuckerberg might have been able to clean up his own website from peddling this crap if instead of spending $500 million to hijack the 2020 election, he had spent trying to clean it up. But the other thing I think is interesting here is, the reason Democrats don't care about this, and you went through all of that in your monologue brilliantly, the reason they don't care about it is because they can't weaponize it to their advantage. They want to talk about this stuff. They want to talk about the evils out there only if they can create a boogeyman that not only silences, as you point out, silences their opponents, but also frightens their followers into thinking that the other side is out to get them.
I think, Charlie, you're making such a great point, and it reminds me, this is why they really get their hair up on their backs when you say you're trying to groom these kids. What else do you call this?
Yes.
Like, what else is this? If you're telling 6-year-olds, no, you're not a boy, you're a girl. Good, let's change your name, get the skirt on. Everyone, you have to call this boy by the new. It's ridiculous, and it's an attempt to get kids used to being sexual beings before most of them can do basic math and reading. That's what this is all about.
And forcing,
I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. I don't care who the hell complains.
Yeah, and forcing the children to participate in their fantasy charade. And one of the things that this study found on Instagram was that before child abuse images would pop up, Instagram would provide a warning saying that this search result could result with pictures of child abuse, but then gave the user the option to ignore it and go ahead and look at the child abuse photographs anyway. So, my goodness, what are these people doing? They're not even pretending to care about this stuff.
They use children as political pawns. That's, in the end, that's all they are to them. Now, Meta, which of course owns Instagram, Facebook, they're claiming that they're taking action to try to stop this problem. They're forming, of course, they all stand by, the task force to investigate how the app facilitates the spread and sale of child sexual abuse material. Where's the Attorney General here, Charlie? Are they still worrying about, getting the next grand jury against Trump? Where is our Attorney General who says that white supremacy is the biggest problem facing the country? Got kids being trafficked.
Exactly. No, that's a great. Yep. No, it's black and white. It's child abuse and it's bullying and it's disgusting. But if they can't use it to benefit them politically, they do not care.
Yeah, Charlie, if they can't use it to ballot harvest, it's not a problem for the day, right? We're going to put it off for the next year. Charlie, thank you for this.
It's not about justice. It's not about agenda. It's not about mobilizing people. It's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.